Yo, what is going on, dudes? Welcome to the video. Today we are reacting to the best controller players from every single season of Fortnite. And you guys actually reached out to me in the comments and said I was actually in this video. And yo, you guys weren't lying. They put me in the thumbnail, dude. Look at that. Look at that mustache. What is that thumbnail, dude? All right, so we're going to watch this video, go through every single season of Fortnite, and I'm going to say whether or not I agree or disagree with this list at any point. There's a lot of incredibly good controller players that I feel like when Fortnite first dropped, we're not really getting any exposure that they deserved. So we're going to talk about that, see if this list is accurate or not, and yeah, let's see what they got to say, dude.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to another video. L2 spammers, where you at? If you've been playing Fortnite since the start, you've probably noticed how incredible
I love how corny this is, dude.
Players have been over time. Dating back to Season 1, where controller players basically had zero chance at beating any players on keyboard and mouse, to present day, where we constantly see controller players on the top of the leaderboards. In today's video, we'll be doing a list of the best controller players from each season of Fortnite. Also, if you're looking to improve at Fortnite, whether you're on
There's definitely good controller players, but
mouse, or best controller player from Season 1. Now, the earliest seasons of Fortnite are definitely the toughest to pick, simply because the controller scene really wasn't well developed at all. But our pick for Season 1 has definitely got to be NICKMERCS.
I would vouch for this. NICKMERCS came into Fortnite from the COD scene. Really great, like, at aiming and positioning from the get-go.
Blowing up in later seasons. Most of us don't really know him for the OG days, but believe it or not, he was easily one of the best controller players in Season 1. During a time where the average player was grinding hours a day for one single win, Nick was out here dropping up to 20 wins per day and making everyone else look like total fools. So even though the controller scene wasn't really that well developed during this time, there's no doubt
everybody was in such slow sensitivity, dude.
Top mouse and keyboard players at the time. Moving on to Season 2, which was still pretty dry season.
Hold on, give me my head.
One controller player who really started making a name for himself is known as Upshall. Upshall was an absolute grinder during this time, streaming every single day and racking up hundreds and hundreds of wins. In Season 2,
dude, that
Upshall
old school
had
building,
1,200 wins, and get this, an 18 KD. That means he got 18 kills for every death, which, while incredible on its own, was exponentially more impressive considering the disadvantages that came with being a controller player at that very time. Now, moving on.
Okay, one thing I will say, NICKMERCS and me, I do think I was actually good at the time. I did have like an 18 KD, but somebody who was completely underrated at this point was Ghost Aiden. Well, he's not Ghost Aiden anymore. He's just Aiden. But this dude, Aiden literally reached out to me way back in the day. He had a 24 KD, and I was like third in the world for KD ratio in this game at that time, and I had an 18. Aiden had a 24, and he wasn't like just playing for W's. He wasn't just like camping in a box. He was actually playing to get kills. He was nuts back in the day when this game first dropped, like at a completely other level. All right, let's keep it going.
Season 3, things really began to spice up for the controller community. Players were beginning to improve, and while it wasn't near the level of keyboard and mouse, controller was making progress. And one of the best controller players of this era is a YouTuber who goes by the name Gronky. Now, Gronky was never really a competitive player, but there wasn't really any competitive scene in Season 3, regardless, apart from some closed prims and invitationals. During this time, Gronky started making tips and tricks videos, and not only did his socials grow, but he was clearly a top-level player, with every video showing yet another 20 or 30 killed game. So
yeah, Gronky was so
really
consistent, dude.
Competitive, there's really no doubting he was pretty dang good back in the day, and he really deserves a spot on this list. Moving on to Season 4, this was around the time when Playground was released, and controller players were really starting to solidify themselves.
It's still Gronky.
And in Season 4, one console beast specifically stood out from the rest. His name is Jacob. Jacob, also known,
they're showing Gronky footage right there.
Jacob has always been at the top of the controller scene, but Season 4 was especially great for him. During Season 4, you could see him streaming on YouTube or posting videos all the time, and he was consistently dropping high kill games like it was nothing. Alongside being in the Team Chronic, Jacob was one of the most notable controller/console players of the time, and was quite possibly the best controller player of this season. In season
Yo, Jacob, absolutely nuts. I literally reacted to him way back in the day when he was first blowing up. I think like that video has almost 1 million views on it. Jacob was so nuts. He unfortunately like doesn't really upload much anymore, but such a good player, dude. 100%.
We started seeing the earliest days of Fortnite competitive, with the summer skirmish starting up and scrims really starting to gain popularity. While controller players still weren't on top, they were definitely starting to make some progress towards it. And during this time, one of the most mechanically talented controller players was known as Camo. Camo was a relatively unknown indie player, but really started making a name for himself in Season 5 by posting YouTube videos of his incredible gameplay, where he easily rolled through some really good players. Not only was he a great mechanical player, but Camo was placing at the top consistently in tournaments like Summer Skirmish and Keemstar's Friday Fortnite, along with the Fall Skirmish in Season 6. In a time where controller players really didn't have any respect, Camo was one of the first to really make moves in the competitive scene and prove that they can compete at the top level. Similar to Camo, moving on to Season 6, our next pick is going to be the guy you probably expected to see, and that's Aiden. Aiden is a competitive player who rose in Seasons 5 and 6 from his fights with NICKMERCS and Tilted Towers, and his overall incredible gameplay. In Season 6, Aiden really started dominating with some incredible performances in Fall Skirmish, including a 9th place finish in the TwitchCon finals with his former rival NICKMERCS. In this tournament, they honestly put on a clinic of some
Did I remember this man?
Slaying out repeatedly. This was one of the tournaments that really put controller on the map, and Aiden was one of the first controller players
with that L2 spam
reach the top level and solidify the controller players as high-level competitors who had a chance. On to Season 7, controller had solidified.
Okay, I just gotta say, I'm glad Aiden's on this list, but in my opinion, way back in the day, he was better than me and NICKMERCS and a lot of controller players. Maybe not Ghost Camo. Camo was insane as well, but basically Aiden had no real following at the very start of Fortnite, and he just accelerated so hard. Totally deserved. In my opinion, early stages of Fortnite in general as a whole, like Chapter 1, I feel like Aiden was just so dominant for so long.
And while this pick may be a bit of a surprise to you guys, I think the best controller player in Season 7 was Sway, aka the Sway we're all familiar with today. This pick probably surprises you, as Sway never really played competitive until Chapter 2, and even now doesn't play it much. But hear me out. In Season 7, Sway was absolutely exploding on YouTube, dropping 30 bombs on a daily basis.
Yo, here's the thing about Sway. Sway doesn't play much comp, but he could absolutely dominate it, but he makes way more of a bag with content. I guarantee that. It honestly doesn't make sense for Sway to no life competitive, even though he could do it, dominate, win a bunch of stuff, probably go to the next World Cup, if there ever even is a next World Cup, but it really makes no sense for him to do that, because as a content creator for FaZe, it's like not even close, man. It's so much more beneficial for him to do what he's doing.
And with the release of Creative, he was easily one of the most talented builders in the entire world. While he really didn't play competitive, it's clear that if he did play competitive at the time, he'd quite possibly be at the top. So although it seems like a crazy pick,
I think he did a cash cup and won it.
The best controller player in Season
like after
7.
not playing any
Finally,
comp.
guys, moving on to Season 8, we saw the start of the World Cup qualifiers, and one of the most underrated up-and-coming beasts of the time was known as Unknown X Army, or present-day NRG Unknown.
So it's been a good list so far now.
Completely unknown.
Last few seasons,
he was placing
accurate, I think.
Well, most notably 3rd place in the Black Card Cup in early Season 8, but he ended up proving himself as one of the best by qualifying twice for the World Cup Solo Finals, once in Season 8 during Week 3, and once in Season 9 during Week 9 of the qualifiers. This shocked everyone to see a controller player at the top, and his skills really shocked everyone. So it's no question that Unknown takes Season 8. Moving on to Season 9, this is where things get really spicy. Season 9 was, as you probably know, the season of the World Cup, and one EU player came out of seemingly nowhere, placing 2nd in the duo finals and securing himself
Hey,
$1 million with
Wolfies!
his duo Rojo. Overnight,
Yo, Wolfies is nuts.
Went from a kid with a dream and the drive to succeed to a kid who had done what many people had considered impossible and dominated the best lobbies in the history of the game, all on controller, which was still being clowned at the time. This was the ultimate turning point.
I don't know if it was being clowned
and controller
anymore, really is heard.
From some jokes from salty keyboard and mouse players, they finally gained their respect in the scene. Now, moving on to Season X, also known as Season 10, it was a really awkward time for the Fortnite scene, with the giant mechs that could literally obliterate your entire team in a split second, aka the most balanced items in the game, to the unusual locations Epic was at.
Yo, for real, at least I've ever played a Fortnite season, 100%. Season X was doo-doo, man.
And it was a really strange season. Throughout this strange season, one unknown player known as LETSHE was beginning to work his way up the ranks. LETSHE was really good previously, having qualified for the World Cup himself. In Season 10, the scene was awkward, but LETSHE still managed to make a name for himself on social media and played decently in Trios FNCS, getting 6th in Week 4, but unfortunately having a disappointing performance in the heats, which resulted in them not making the Grand Finals. But despite that, LETSHE still had an amazing season, and this season was really that stepping stone that sent him into the Pro Leagues. And today you can see him placing at the top almost every single event with pros like our very own Benji Fish, Mr. Savage M, and others by his side.
I'm gonna be honest, I just made a video about LETSHE. He's incredibly good. He was incredibly good then, but I feel like he's honestly progressed even more now. Like, I feel like he's even more dominant in the scene now than what he was in Season 10. But I feel like everybody stopped playing as much Fortnite, so that does
Also,
make this list kind of weird.
Of LETSHE, moving on to Season 1 of Chapter 2 after the Black Hole incident, this is actually the first double pick on our list, and our pick is Unknown once again. If you don't remember, Unknown was pretty much the best player in the world this season. Controller players...
Look at that tracking!
But there hadn't been a season until Chapter 2 Season 1 where we could confidently say the world's best player was on Controller. With repeated top 5 finishes in Cash Cups, with multiple first places, and topping it all off with first place in Squad's FNCS Grand Finals, securing a cool $187,500 split between his squad.
Yo, kind of crazy. This dude, Kez, literally just got banned for actually cheating, like actually aimbotting, full ban from Fortnite, deleted all his socials, but I believe that he wasn't actually using his cheats until after this. I think basically he took a break from Fortnite, came back, was a bit washed, and then basically bought an aimbot, which is incredibly dumb to do. He's also talking right now about how this season Controller was #1. Yes, Unknown did win, but all these guys are not on Controller. And Unknown, yes, Linear was really, really great. It was incredibly strong aim assist, but it's not like it just would win like FNCS for you. I don't really agree with what he's saying right here. It's not like it was the input. Look at all the other players in the top 5. Like, none of these guys on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place team, none of those people played Controller, and one from the winning team played Controller. Like, yeah, Linear was OP, but
there's no doubting.
I don't really agree with what he's saying here.
And by a wide margin as well. Season 2 of Chapter 2 was yet another interesting season for competitive. And this was the point where we were literally seeing Controller players at the top left and right. At this point in time, you could have argued that Controller was overall the more dominant input compared to keyboard, which is a big statement, but a true one as well. And the best Controller player at the world at this time was actually a former keyboard and mouse player who switched to Controller, and the player who won over $1 million from the Solo World Cup yet again on keyboard. His name is EPIKWHALE. After winning millions of dollars as a keyboard player, EPIKWHALE decided to make the switch to Controller after realizing how wildly overpowered aim assist was at the time. He grinded his mechanics non-stop, and with his Controller aim, mouse and keyboard game sense, and wild mechanics, he managed to secure a ton of first place finishes, including Cash Cups, FNCS qualifiers, and he topped it off by getting first place with his duo Rex in the FNCS Duo Finals on NA West. Since then, aim assist has had some major nerfs, and EPIKWHALE has made the decision to return to keyboard and mouse. However, he's still one of the best, if not the best player on NA West, so it's all good on his end. Moving on to the most recent complete
I think that's pretty fair. I think EPIKWHALE is really good.
Where the undisputed GOAT was definitely the player known as Coop. Yet again, for this season, you could easily make the argument that a Controller player, aka Coop, was the best player in the world. Coop started the season a bit slow, but made some incredible progress and ended up becoming the most dominant solo player in NA East, securing first place in the 2 hardest tournaments of the season, the FNCS Invitational along with DreamHack August Open, and grabbing a solid $50,000 in the FNCS tournament and $10,000 from DreamHack. This consistency has been almost unheard of from any other player, and we wouldn't be surprised to see Coop on top in more major events moving forward.
Yeah,
Finally,
Coop is
guys,
nasty,
we've got
100%.
the current season, Chapter 2, Season 4. We don't want to make a definitive pick for this season until it's over, especially with FNCS and the fact that, well, it isn't over. However, there are a few absolute beasts in the scene, and we're super excited to see who might end up on top. If I had to make a prediction right now, it's got to be either Illest or Reet. Both
yeah, baby.
Players and are performing at incredible levels, so keep your eyes on those two.
And with all that said, guys.
All right. The list overall, who they actually picked was pretty decent. Again, like I said, I think Aiden should have been on the list earlier. Honestly, probably replacing me because we played squads together and he would always out-frag me back then. So he's actually nuts. I will say I do feel like this video is like heavily biased that controller was OP. I think linear aim assist was dumb. I do agree that it was too strong, but the whole consensus that like it just gave you magical mystical powers and you could just win World Cups by just switching the controller. EPIKWHALE was able to do that because EPIKWHALE is a controller, like a competitive god. And so when he switched from keyboard and mouse to controller while aim assist was at its strongest, he did great. That's not really, and honestly shouldn't really be a surprise. Somebody who's like inherently an amazing gamer, switching to a gaming device that had a strong feature at that time, and then going on to win a bunch of tournaments like he usually does. I honestly don't find that too surprising because Fortnite at the end of the day is all about like your mindset. It's all about your IQ and how you move along. It's honestly a lot less about mechanics than people think it is. It's still a lot about mechanics, don't get me wrong, but so much of it is how you plan your movement and how you read the zones and rotate. I think that is a more important skill than anything else, and I think that's why EPIKWHALE was able to transfer and dominate. Not to take anything away from him. Dude is absolutely nuts, but that's my thoughts on that. Overall, honestly, a pretty decent list. A lot of controller goats. Really cool to see the big Reet getting the shout out at the end. But yeah, I don't know. I honestly thought this was a good list. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below. I'd love to hear who you guys think is the best controller player in all the seasons or even just the last few seasons. Let me know in the comments if you guys enjoyed this type of content. Drop a like on it. Hit that sub down below. And let me know in the comments a video or a player you want to see me react to in the future. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.